And also pediatricians. Why do I say pediatricians in the medical field? Because children under 3, right? That is their primary um, that is their point of reference for families. They take to heart everything the pediatrician says. So if the pediatrician says, listen, if you want your child to be a reader when they get older, these are some of the things that you need to do right now to build their brain capacity. That speaks volume. That's a game changer because my pediatrician is telling me I can do these free things that will build my child's brain for reading development. And pediatricians can't do this by themselves because they're very busy. But how about partnering with the library and hosting events for new parents? These are some of the things that we can do as a community to make sure that literacy is prioritized.
I love what you said because there needs to be a campaign for that, a healthy campaign, like especially we see the difference when we campaign about a change and the investment is there and then within a few months, years, you start seeing that development happen. And one of the things that also I'm taking into account are two things from what you were saying is like we forget that, for example, in ancient times, literacy was only for those privileged. Like the most of the world didn't learn how to read. So it was like if you were in a high position, a prince, and it always brings me back to the story of Joseph because Joseph was literate. That's what got him into really good situations, right? And it's a beautiful story for those that don't know, and the importance of of understanding how to create healthy boundaries for single parents to create an avid reader at home. I don't know if you have a question for
Yeah.
Dr. Blanton.
I love the pediatricians and all those networking connections you create. Uh, so basically, a more functioning society of readers, because like when you have those readers, you have thinkers and you have people that would just perform at a different level or even think at a different level, just because now their mind is literally expanded from reading, like it's expansion of the mind. One of the things I also like is like I'm just gonna pitch it out there too, like pamphlets at pediatricians that they'll just say like improve it, like you want your kid to have great brain health, give them a book. And that would be like that's like a simple pamphlet that someone's like usually reads are like, oh no, I don't want my kid to have this disease, but it's like I want them to have this great health. So that's a great one. I guess one of my questions is for the different categories of reading and finding out the perfect category for a kid and having someone see it. So for example, you have I'm gonna give out like 5 kids just for an example. You have a kid that loves sports. You have one that loves video games. You have one that loves science. You have one that loves, or we'll work with those three: sports, video games, science. For those 3 different categories, what kind of books or subjects of books would you suggest for each one?
So sports, there's my our youngest son is a sports fanatic, right? So there's all kinds of autobiographies out there about the different pick whatever sport that they like. Let's just say it's basketball. And they all have favorite players or favorite teams. Why not get them a book about those individuals? And even if they can't read it as yet, like read it on their own, read it with them. And if you can't read, get a trusted adult or a trusted youngster that can read and let them read it to the child. It could be on anything. It could be on coaches. It could be on the game itself. It doesn't even have to be real. Right? Fiction and nonfiction books are great. Um, Also, there are movies. There are movies out there a lot about sports, right? So depending upon the age, okay, there's a movie about the Titans, right? Let's just throw that out there. Before they watch the movie, let's read the book. And then let's talk about the differences
Mhm.
between what you read and what you saw. That stimulates a child instantly. Now there's purpose for reading,
Yeah,
right?
for the movie too.
And purpose for the movie.
Mhm.
So now you get to see the movie. And then you'll be surprised. And I know a lot of students that I've met over the years and I've taught over the years, they won't watch a movie about a topic until they read the book, if there's a book out there.
Mm.
Because they want to formulate their own images in their mind. And they'll say, well, that's not what I was thinking. That's not what I was envisioning, right? To see the movie. And that was so disappointing. Um, but they will read the book first before they will watch the movie and then have a healthy conversation. Bring other people in. Let's talk about it. It's not to be a right or wrong thing. We just want them to talk and to experience. And as far as the video games are concerned, in order for those video games to take place, somebody had to read about it. Somebody had to do some reading, right? So if that's what you want to do, we need to read about it. Let's read about some of the people who developed some of those games that you like. How did that happen? How did it happen for you if you want to do it? Let's do some research. There's reading and research. So now you're still getting the reading in, but you're reading for a specific purpose now. So sometimes you got to trick them into it. They don't know that you're building reading skills or helping them to build reading skills. The only thing they know is I'm researching this topic because it's interesting to me. I want to be a content person, or I want to be the person to build the next. What is in the game? Fortnite. And so now they're interested, not understanding that requires reading. Um, I don't think that it was so much of a change. We've always had a reading problem. There's always been a reading problem, right? COVID did not unveil this great big reading problem. COVID unveiled the access and accessibility, right? That woke us up. But we've always had a problem in this country with reading, going back to anti-literacy laws. So I just want to preface what I'm about to say with the fact that our brains were not wired to read. We have to teach it, right? It does this great thing. It rewires itself, right, to form pathways for reading to develop. A lot of people don't understand that. It's very different than language. Language, you can put a child in a room full of people who are speaking and they will speak. You don't have to teach them how to talk, right? That is not going to happen for reading. You cannot sit someone in a room full of people who are reading, whether they're reading out loud or silently. It's not going to happen. You have to teach it to read, right? That starts very early. What we think is reading starts in kindergarten, and then we build these habits in kindergarten. And if we think that, we're 5 years already behind, right? Reading starts really at the moment of conception. How? Well, all of the stuff that mom eats, all of the environmental pressures and stress impacts the developing brain. Reading is all about the brain. The brain is the main character, right? And so if we understand that, then we have a point of reference. And so how do we build stamina, right? Because in order to learn to read and read well, you have to build stamina. I'm like, this is a race, right? Not for the quick athlete, but it's endurance. And it took us years, decades to get here. My book has only been out since August. It's not going to take months for us to get out. And so people have to come to the point where I came to and say, okay, I reflected, now I see, and now I'm going to do better. When you know better, you do better.